All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And tonight, I wanted to kind of brush up on some legal applications, tools, if you wish, for you, the practitioner. Okay. Now, a couple videos ago, I explained why I deleted Facebook and why I didn't recommend it to anyone. Okay, namely because of Zuckerberg and his corporation adding new technology and only discriminating against those of non-Christian practices. Okay, so tonight I went into my ritual room, lit the candles, the incense, and tried to meditate. Unfortunately, it was more of a lot of rage, a lot of anger, and the presence within there was definitely not a calming one. So meditation was out of the question, and I felt the need to tap into baneful sorcery. And with everything going on, some things came up this afternoon that requires a minor adjustment, but there was other things that came into play that kind of reminded me about what's going on with Facebook. So I had a couple of people contact me in Messenger, and they asked about legal protections. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who have a religious coven, or say, for an example, a church, a temple. The First Amendment, if you live here in the United States of America, describes what makes up a protected religion. Number one, doctrine. That means a Bible of some sort. Look at Reverend King. He created a satanic Bible. Anton Zandalave, a satanic Bible. You know, you got the Witch's Bible. You have the pagan Bible, or Wiccan Bible. I believe it's called the Wiccan Bible, if I remember correctly. It's a kind of like a purplish Bible, and you got the Adversarial Bible put out by Michael W. Ford. This is considered doctrine, and therefore it's a part of what makes up a protected religion in the United States of America. So, number one, you have a foundation. Okay, you have a church, a temple, a coven. Number two, you have doctrine. Okay, and the biggest thing is number three, which is a following. Okay, if you have any following, okay, it makes you a protected religion. Okay, it makes your coven, your temple, your church a protected religion. This includes your rites, your rituals, and even freedom of speech to speak your mind. Okay. So when companies like Facebook decide to target you and single you out, I want you to go think about this and go to not only to the First Amendment, which really defines the freedom of religion, but also freedom of speech. Okay, but if you go underneath the title "Religious Land Use and Personalized Religious Acts," it clearly defines that no, underneath equal terms, no sect, assembly, individual, or organization has the right to limit or deny your religion. Okay, your religious practices. That's why it's called religious land use and personalized religious acts. Okay, a lot of people get hung up on the first part and forget about the second. Okay, and if you go underneath the 1967 Civil Rights Act, you'll notice under titles VI and VII, there's a lot of things that involve corporations. Okay. Number one, hiring, being an employee, equal rights, your religious rights, all of this fun stuff. But in this case, okay, with what you put forth within freedom of speech, say for an example, a sense of humor, you know, or say for an example, you're putting forth photos of blood sorcery, which is also known as hemomancy. Okay, for those of you who do not know, those of you who perform rituals online, you have a right to express this stuff. And this is found underneath the constitutional protections, okay, and of many different amendments, not just local, state, and federal law, because each one has their own mandates, their own outlook and views of what makes up a protection, a religious protection, okay? Because you have the federal, which is overseen by the Department of Justice and group known as the American Civil Liberties Union. But then you got the state law, okay? The state law has its own views based off the federal law. But then it comes down and is broken down into what is known as boroughs. Borough law comes down to each district defining what they believe should be protected. You also want to take a look at the Ramsey Law because of the fact that the Ramsey Law, depending on the type of job you have, is based off protection. Okay, individual protection. So if you're working with a conveyor belt or some kind of machinery that can easily kill, then you don't want to wear rings, necklaces, loose clothing, stuff like that. So therefore, that would be a job that requires the company to say, nope, you cannot wear this. Okay. And that does give the company's jurisdiction to the point where they can discern off the job that you are doing what is considered to be safety protocols. Okay. Safety protocols. Like I said, conveyor belts are very powerful. So if you have an amulet and that gets caught, or say mala beads, you could probably lose a hand or get strangled to death just off that. So it would be their responsibility to deny you in that case. And but they cannot deny your religious practices or your freedom of speech. They can only base it off the type of job that you do. You still have to wear a uniform, and each human reference department of each corporation has a list of what is acceptable and what is not. So I would recommend that you get involved in that aspect and say, hey, this is what I wear. Here's some photos of what I wear. Is this considered to be appropriate for this line of job? Okay. They will say yay or nay. Okay. But that's up to them in that case. Now, a lot of these laws separate church and state, but they also prevent the government and agencies from interfering within your religious practices. Okay? Unless it is a dire thing like say life or death. Okay? But outside of that they cannot get involved unless you particularly get involved and say, "Hey, I need your help on this. This is what's going on. My religious rights are being trifled upon." Okay? So here, I want to turn your attention to one particular clause, and it's known as the free exercise clause. And this is something that caught my attention, and I was thinking about this, and when my account, because I was associated with somebody else and a couple other people's accounts, and on a particular video that we were kind of just joking around. Well, guess what? Facebook has no right to do what they did. Okay. And it goes the same way when they're targeting Satanists, witches, pagans, Wiccans, necromancers, and other religious paths without touching those of the right winged fascists, meaning Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hebrewism. Okay. When they're not touching these groups, that's considered religious discrimination. Okay. So I want to kind of read this to you a little bit. The Free Exercise Clause recognizes and guarantees Americans the right to believe and profess whatever religious doctrine they desire. Okay. But the government may not attempt to regulate religious beliefs, compel religious beliefs, or punish religious beliefs. Okay. And there's a lot of different clauses that go underneath this, but when you get down roughly, I want to say about three-fourths of the way down this one paragraph, um, it may not discriminate against or impose special burdens upon individuals because of their religious beliefs or status. And with the exception of certain historical limits on the freedom of speech, government may not punish or otherwise harass churches, church officials, or religious adherents for speaking on religious topics or sharing their religious beliefs. The Constitution protection against government regulation of individual belief is absolute. It is not subject to limitation or balancing against the interest of the government. And what's interesting here is it also goes into the topic of independent corporations. They have no right to limit or deny your freedom of speech or the freedom of religion. Okay. So, Zuckerberg, if you are paying attention here, I want you to pay attention closely to this clause because your ass is in a sling. Okay. If you go underneath the protections of, say, titles VI, CL3, the people then amended the Constitution during the first Congress to clarify that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Those protections have been incorporated against the states. Okay. This also applies to the offices and public trust under the United States. Okay. But what's interesting here is that if you go down to the second one, the free exercise clause protects beliefs rooted in religion, even if such beliefs are not mandated by a particular religious organization or shared among adherents of a particular religious tradition. Okay. As the Supreme Court has repeatedly concealed or counseled, I should say, Religious beliefs need not be acceptable, logical, consistent, or comprehensible to others in order to merit Amendment protection. Okay, they must merely be sincerely held. Okay, and it goes on for it's a pretty in-depth read, and I think that all of you that live in the United States need to go underneath Google, go to your local library, your public library, and I think that you need to brush up on your legal rights surrounding freedom of religion and freedom of speech. We've been noticing it's not just Facebook; it's also social media. They've been really cracking down on freedom of speech and freedom of religion, which is in return, as you just heard as I was reading, are literally violating your constitutional rights. Therefore, like I said, you have a right to open up a civil dispute against them in a court of law. You can go to and file junctions with the Department of Justice and the American Civil Liberties Union, and you can take them to federal court. Guess what? Zuckerberg, that's right, I'm targeting you in this. This is your company, your responsibility. The fact that computer software that you had installed and signed off on, you are responsible for what is translating into the world today. So it does not matter if you have three different councils that overview so called rebukes of your computer. Okay? If they are not upheld or upholding the legal laws, you are, well, to blame. You're the boss. The buck stops with you. It does not matter. Oop, ah, it does not matter um, if you do a facelift with a brand new name. It does not matter how many platforms you own. It does not matter how much technology you put into your company. Okay? You are to blame and you are responsible for what is transpiring in your company. Okay? You are targeting individual sects of practitioners, religious discrimination. That opens up your company to a civil suit. Not only that, but legal ramifications and heavy, heavy fucking fines. Okay? Second of all, the fact that you're limiting speech, freedom of speech, based off terminologies that have been used for centuries, even generations, even. That is on you as well. That violates the constitutional right of freedom of religion, or freedom of speech, rather. Therefore, you are violating just about everybody's constitutional right to speak their own mind. Now, if somebody can't even make a joke without your company banning them, restricting their accounts, or even being able to defend themselves, that's limiting one's freedom of speech. That's called free speech, freedom of speech, to speak upon one's religion, to back it up with sources. Even the FBI is cracking down on people who are cyberbullies, cyber stalkers, because this falls underneath the jurisdiction of cybercrimes, which gets your ass in the sling once again, Zuckerberg, because of this. Perhaps some of us should just drop a dime on you, so to speak. I wonder what day my sister works down in Quantico. Hmm, yeah, should look her up. Say, hey, this is what's going on. Check it out. But hey, or maybe we should just all go to the Department of Justice and fill out complaints against you and your company. Because obviously you're not learning. Obviously you're not going with the laws which you are mandated to uphold. So that tells me that you would rather be a criminal organization. Most of your kind are. You got so much money that you think you're above the law until somebody comes around and knocks you down a few pegs. Well, the time's coming when the American people are going to tell you to go fuck yourself. They're going to report you to the legal system, and or they're going to fine you so heavily through and tie you up through legal lawsuits that you won't even be able to wipe your own ass. Plain and simple. But I thought I would get under here and kind of just give you that insight. Maybe see if you'd actually grow a pair and do the right thing before it's too late to act. So many people are literally leaving your social platforms anyways because of these restrictions. If you're too stupid to even notice that, then you should not be the head of a conglomerate like Facebook. Now, somebody posted on my last video. Matter of fact, it was that video I mentioned at the beginning of this that Instagram was actually owned by you. Well, I can't speak to that, but if it's true, well, good luck keeping that one. But I wanted to, like I said, give you that opportunity to do the right thing. But on the other hand, knowing your kind, you rich kids, you're not going to learn. So this is for the American people. Learn your legal laws. Stick up for your own religious belief structure. Titles VI and VII of the 1967 Civil Rights Act. Okay, look at the Restoration Acts. Clinton did it as well. Bush, I believe, did it. And then I believe Trump also added to it a little bit as well when he was in office. Go as far back as the Blue Law. Okay. But the free exercise clause is the big thing that a lot of people tend to overlook. So get into that. All right. I'm going to call it a night because I got to work the next 3 days. So tomorrow evening, I will be doing a cartomancy reading right here, live, for all of you, for those of you who wish to join in. So, and that's going to cover the next week. All right. But for now, have a good night. And remember to cover your own ass because no one else is going to do it for you.